Hello everyone, welcome to Smart Q&A Show, a channel from Smart TV, Smartcom Center. My name is Thanh and nice to meet you all. Have you ever wondered why you can read English so fluently or pronounce the words so correctly when you use a dictionary? But when it comes to write a paragraph or speak to a native speaker, you just seem to froze. Well, here we are offering you a forum to solve all of your problems. If you have any question relating to English, just send it to us through the email smartqa@gmail.com. We will be gladly to solve all of your problems. And remember, English is not a destination. It is a journey, it is a life. Thank you and see you again. Hello everyone, from the last time we met, we have received a lot of questions from students who are having trouble studying English. I am so happy to answer those questions, but what's even better is that I have been able to invite a special guest, a professional yet friendly supporter. He is Dr.Ben Williams. He has a long time working at Educational Testing Service, which administrates and develops international tests including TOEFL, TOEIC, SAT, GMAT, and more importantly, he has a lot of experience teaching Vietnamese students. So, hello Dr. Ben, how are you today?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Yeah.
I like the studio.
Yeah,
yes, it's very nice. I particularly like the chairs. They're kind of like bar stools.
Very comfortable, right?
Well, they're kind of like a bar stool. I don't suppose I could get a beer. No. All right. Okay. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you for your presence.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some problems studying English, and we have received many questions from the students. So today, can you help us answering some questions?
Well, I'll certainly do my best. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's start our first question today. The question comes from Miss Jung, a sophomore at FTU. I have some trouble in studying new words. I can learn a long list of vocabulary words by heart very quickly. However, I honestly can't remember them for a long time. So the problem is, now can I memorize new words for long?
Well, it's quite easy to get words back from short-term memory, but it's more difficult to recall words from the long-term memory. And words tend to stay in the long-term memory. Long-term memory if they're used. So the long-term memory is that part of the brain at the back there that's keeping things. It usually doesn't forget things. But what we've learned is that if you use a word and you use it regularly, it's kind of implanted so that later on it is more easily recalled. Learning and trying to memorize long lists of words and then having to say, I can't recall them or I forget them, obviously means that they're not learned in the first place. And this is a well-known fact that learning long lists of vocabulary words is one of the most ineffective ways of learning vocabulary. So, in able to remember the words that you do use, you have to use them in a variety of ways. And the ways that I recommend is you use them in conversation when you can, maybe use them when you send an email, okay? And you have to find ways of bringing these words into your conversation and your writing. The idea is you've got to get these words off the word list and get them up here. And you can't do that unless you use them. And if you use them on a regular basis, they are going to be implanted. They're going to be there for instant recall. And that's what I'm suggesting. And the other thing is, of course, everybody knows you've got dictionaries and things like that. But the other good thing is, here's a thesaurus. This is a thesaurus. Now, I'm not a young person.
Okay.
I'm an old guy. I've been around for many years,
all
right? And I've been to university and I have my PhD, and you know what? I still carry my thesaurus. I carry this around in my briefcase all the time because it's a valuable tool in terms of learning vocabulary. You always learn vocabulary, you go to a thesaurus. you try to find the simplest explanation for that word. So if you've got a huge word that says gargantuan, and you're, gargantuan, what the heck is that? And then you realize that when you look at your thesaurus, that it's basically another word that means very big. Boy, you've got a connection. It's not a confusing thing anymore. So use it as often as you can, and if you do that with your vocabulary, then it's going to stay there. You cannot learn 50 words on a page and expect to recall them next week, because they're not implanted, because they're just words that you've looked at and you think you've memorized it, but it's only short-term memory. So again, last point, use it in a variety of ways so it's implanted.
Okay, so we should use it over and over and over again and try to connect it to the real life. Is that right?
Yeah, using it over and over and over again also is not awfully effective if you're not using it in the right circumstances, or you're not using it in the right context. Most of the words you learn on a list have their place, and they can be used in certain times, but they can't be used every day. And let's talk about gargantuan. If every time you want to say that's big or that's large, we use gargantuan, we're going to sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't fit. It's not necessary. So that's the other side. Select a few words that you're interested in that you can use and that will fit easily into a conversation or your writing. Because you have to understand that no matter what you do, TOEIC, TOEFL IBT, GMAT, IELTS, it's all about enhancing and increasing your vocabulary and at an academic level. So it just needs to be higher, and you can't do that by memorizing huge lists.
Okay. So the point here is that don't study words by heart. Don't study a long list of words. Try to move it from short-term memory to long-term memory, and there you got a lot of vocabulary. Thank you for being here today.